Slick Nick has arrived. I am the living legend. What I think is very important is that you hear the origin story in the same way that we're talking about comic book superheroes. So for this version, I want my dad to be here because if it weren't for my parents, I wouldn't have this Jeep. It'd be absolutely impossible to own this Jeep if it weren't for their involvement. So what had happened is my mom saw the Jeep posted on Facebook, and I'm basically near Nashville, Tennessee, and the Jeep was posted in Waverly Hall, Georgia. What's that even near, just to give a reference point?
It's not far from Auburn.
It's across the state border from Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah.
The university there. But I mean, I think it was over 5 hours from my house. And the deal with this Jeep is, it was basically the first person who can go down there and pay the money can take it away. And so that's problematic for me on a Monday where I work a full-time job, have 2 kids. I can't just leave and go down there and get that. So thanks to my dad, I was able to obtain it. But ultimately what you had to do, you went to work on Monday, right?
Right.
And then from there, you left work at what, like 4 or 5?
3:30.
Is that normal time you leave?
Yeah.
And then you had to just go straight down there, and that was like a 3-hour drive for you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But, well, by the time you got there, it was like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
It was 9 o'clock.
By the time because you had to swing by the house, get my mom, and
Yeah.
I guess get dinner, and then go. So it was after 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then you had to inspect the Jeep. So what's funny about this concept is, until, well, the day I was wearing this shirt, because I released my videos out of chronological order, but I had never driven the Jeep. I had never driven a Jeep, and it was your job, one of your jobs was to inspect the Jeep. And it was at night at somebody's house, and you just had like the garage light basically to look at.
Yeah.
So, and you never driven a Jeep Wrangler before either.
No.
I mean, granted, you rebuild cars, but you had to be the person that test drove the car for me, and you only got it up to what, like 45 miles an hour?
Actually, I didn't even test drive it. I only started the engine up and raised the hood and checked the oil, and basically all I did. Yeah. It was so late at night. It was dark. I didn't really know my way around the town we were in. So
the real test drive was once you left and had to come 3 hours back to Alabama.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny. It's such a crazy story because, in theory, buying this Jeep was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like every way you look at it.
It was. Yeah. It was something you don't want and typically do or want to do, but you got such a good deal on it. You figure, well, if the thing runs and it can drive home, it's worth the money,
Because we could have sold it and still made thousands, even if we had to put a couple thousands in it to get a new motor or whatever. Yeah. We got that good of a deal on it, and if we didn't take them up on the offer, somebody else would have done it by the next day. Like that's why it had to happen on a Monday night, right then. And so you drove back. You got back home at what, 1 a.m.? 1:30?
Yeah.
And then you slept for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Went back to work the next day.
Yeah.
And had to work a full day.
Yes.
And
actually worked an hour and a half overtime.
because you had to, because in another video that we've shot, we explained that my dad, you're the quality control supervisor, that's your title, at Game Time, the factory that makes playground equipment, one of the major leading ones in the world. And so you had to be there to inspect this playground set that was being shipped to Africa.
Yes.
So you had to work that Monday to be able to supervise that, and then you had to be there the next day to see it going out of the plant.
Yeah.
And there was no way around it. And there was no way around, if I was to get this Jeep, you had to go, you just had to survive through all it. You just had to do it.
Yeah.
It was a one-time thing that was crazy. But I wanted to make this video just to share. We already know this, but what amazing parents I have. And it's funny because even at work, like I explained, I was like, well, I got the Jeep. I won't be seeing it for about another week or so till I get back to Alabama. But because of my parents just going down there randomly on Monday, and like that was everything they did that whole day, doing that made it possible. So yeah, it's pretty, and that's why for me it also still feels like a dream come true, because it's almost like if you have one of those dreams like, oh, I got this thing I've always wanted in this dream, and then you wake up, oh man, that was just a dream. Well, this is actually real life, but it took somewhat of a nightmare of you living through to make a dream come true on this. And not only sacrificing, you know, all of that time and driving to go get it, but being some sense of taking a look at it first.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually a 10-hour road trip there and back.
After you worked all day
Yeah.
and had to work the next day, and I only got enough sleep that would account for a nap, basically.
Yeah.
So it's important that this video is documented, because this shows what sacrifices it took to get such an amazing deal on this Jeep. And as far as the financial side of it, I'm going to have do this version of this video with my mom so she can explain her side of it, on how much it took to save the thousands of dollars so that I could afford the Jeep, the vehicle that I'd always wanted. So the moral of the story, I couldn't have done this without my parents, and if my dad couldn't have done what he did, we wouldn't be having a Jeep Wrangler to be for my new vehicle. You got comments? They belong right here.